For context, this was 4 years ago. I'm 20 now. I was 16 and got my first job at a Midwestern based store that sold hunting, fishing, construction, and farming stuff. We had a tire shop connected to it as well. Of course, there were some creeps that shopped there. Old men that liked to hit on and stalk the 16-year-old girls that worked there. I had my fair share of gazers that continuously came to my register or tried to talk to me for hours. I'm a relatively tough female, so I could just take it. I just had to make sure to stick with coworkers after work while going to my car. One day, I saw a new dude working. He didn't seem to be much older than me. I remember thinking he was cute enough. His job was to bring the carts back inside from the parking lot and keep them organized. I think we had a tiny exchange one time, but I don't remember anything of it. One day, he came in my checkout line on his day off with his friend. He told me his name was Charles, but he went by Alex for whatever reason. I decided to look for him on Facebook since I thought he was cute and I had other coworkers I was friends with. I found him and sent him a friend request. He accepted it, and to try to be smooth, I pretended I accidentally sent him a message that was supposed to go to someone else. Cheesy, I know. We started to message back and forth. I got his number and his Snapchat. He moved from our main store to our tire shop, so I didn't actually see him at work. Things started to get weird over social media. He would start to get sexual, which I would go along with because he was attractive to me. I soon found out that he was 24 years old. I honestly didn't think to ask how old he was, because he looked maybe 18. He would ask me, "So, you like older dudes?" I would say, "I didn't know." And he would reply, "Well, I hope you do because I like you." And soon after, he asked me if we could meet up after work to make out. That was a huge red flag. I started to fade away from him because this in itself was creepy. I didn't think to block him. I just thought to avoid him. Young and naive. I know what you're thinking. He would start to spam me with messages and send me pictures of his ejaculation in his underwear, pictures of his man parts, etc. I did end up blocking him when this happened, but he continued to make more accounts to message me. I was talking with my female coworker one day. He was only a year older than me. I told her about him, and she said he was really gross. She showed me some of the messages he sent her that said that he likes to be peed on and that he wants to drink it. She asked him if he liked poop too, and he replied, "Yeah, is that weird?" That same night, she showed me her messages. He messaged me over an account on Facebook and asked if he could eat my poop. He also asked me before we had sex if he could go pee on me and he could lick me clean. It makes me shudder to think about that. I soon after quit my job and unfortunately was too dumb not to report him. I stayed in contact with a few coworkers who all said he had been fired for unknown reasons. I blocked all of his accounts after I left. He seemed to stop trying to contact me. Every time I see someone who even looks a little bit like him, I swear I almost have a heart attack. I'll be damned if I ever see Charles again. So before I go into this story, I'll just explain that in the lead up to this particular incident, I had a number of strange attempted break-ins and occurrences, so much so that I had to install cameras with motion sensors on every entry and exit in my apartment, just so I could boldly make sure nobody was there when I got in at night. The first one was encountering a man sitting in my room when I walked into broad daylight. I had stuff go missing the week before, and my roommate said that he had the sense he was being watched there that week. So I'm on my way home from a night out, and I start going through my phone. I see I have a message on Tinder to check it out. The girl looks attractive, but I think she's a catfish because she sounds so eager to meet me. And I know that when something sounds too good to be true, it usually is. So I get home and she sends me her address. I check it, and she's literally a 5-minute walk away. I'm drunk and it sounds appealing, even just the attention. But again, I don't believe her. So I say, "Video call me?" And she surprisingly agrees. I see the call coming in, and I'm not sure what to expect. But surprisingly, it's the person. She seems nice, says she's high and wants to smoke and have some company. And I agree. Now I'm kind of excited. Maybe I'll actually really hit it off with her. And she lives a stone's thrown away. So I have a shower, grab some liquor, and head over. So I'm on the way, I'm walking, I'm nearing her place. I look across the street and through the archway that leads into the courtyard for this apartment block. At the end of the anchored corridor, I see a man glance at me and then pretend to look at his phone. I walk past and I don't know why, but I'm sure it's to do with this paranoia I've been experiencing. But I stop and decide to walk back. As I come to the arch again, I see the guy's head peek out around the corner, and while I'm making eye contact, he just backs up rapidly. When I'm in the full view of the arch tunnel again, this man is seemingly immersed in his phone again, and he starts walking around the corner and down the street. I stand there and look to see if he will look back, but he doesn't, and I hear a girl's voice behind me. It's the girl, and she's like, "Hey, come in." It feels like an episode of To Catch a Predator, but she's clearly in her 30s. So I start to relax again, but only briefly. We walk up a flight of steps to get to the apartment, but then she starts veering down a flight of steps and tells me she has a basement apartment. I follow her and I'm calm until I get to the living room. I don't know how to describe where there was nothing there to make me feel nervous, but that was exactly it. It was so bare, just a sofa and like a kitchen table, just the complete opposite of what I imagined. I've dated girls, and it just wasn't a girl's apartment. I don't know if that makes sense. So now she's like, "Come into my room." And I get this overwhelming sense of fear. Like something is telling me it's a trap. Don't do it. You're walking into a honey trap. But I try to tell myself I'm being paranoid and try to relax again. So I follow her, and it's a tiny box room. There's a bed and an empty bedside drawer. Now, the thing that weirds me out the most is there's another door, which I could only assume leads to a bathroom. The door is closed, but there's a very obvious pool of water coming out from underneath the door, like something has overflowed but stopped. I'm about to ask, but I don't, as her hand cups and squeezes my crotch area, and I'm taken aback at how forward she starts to become. She kisses me while guiding my hand down the front of her sweats inside her underwear and whispers for me to take my clothes off. I start to open my shirt, and before I can, she's butt naked already. She's sitting on the bed and starts opening, getting my pants down straight into me. Sorry about the details, but I'm trying to explain. One, her over eagerness to make me get naked, and two, the overwhelming feeling that she was trying to distract me, to put me in a vulnerable position. Now she starts to lie back and pull me on top of her, making these over the top moaning noises. Then I can distinctly hear something outside the door in the living room that sounds like clothes rubbing against clothes when you're moving in a really quiet place. And footsteps. Not many, but like somebody is sneaking around. As we're getting into it, she tells me my watch is catching her skin and asks if I can take it off. I find this strange, but it gives me a chance to gather myself. I sit up and start to take it off. I ask her why there's water leaking out of the restroom. I know generally if she misheard me or is completely sidestepping my question, but she just answers, "Yes, I have water here," and grabs a bottle of open water from the side of the bed. I don't resist. I open the bottle and take a drink. I hear that close on light footsteps movement again. I can feel there is someone right outside the door, and my heart starts to beat. I can also feel my lips starting to burn inexplicably. I think she can feel my uneasiness and starts to kiss the back of my neck. Now, I can't tell you how much I wanted this to be real, not a setup, to believe this girl really wanted this. But even if she did really like me, she was way too eager. I say, "What time is it?" and grab my phone. I look at the message where she told me her address and memorize it. I open and go to WhatsApp. I pretend to send an audio message. I say, "Hey guys, I'm at blank, this street basement apartment." I can see the wide eyed surprise look on her face. "I need one of you to come pick me up outside right away. I can't explain right now, but if you can't come, send somebody to that apartment. If I'm not outside, then I'm in trouble and call the cops." She pauses, stuck for words, and asks why I'm so paranoid. I ask her who is outside, and she doesn't deny that anyone is there, just says her friend. No explanation. I start to get distressed. I feel relief, but also think, am I overthinking this? I say bye, and she says, "See you later," and starts texting on her phone. I open the door. The room is darker than we went through at first, but I can make out the silhouette of mostly everything. I don't see any other room though, and wonder where the heck her friends is, or why there was somebody in that room. I have the jitters walking through the room. It's only a short trip, but I'm envisioning someone jumping out from out of nowhere and bludgeoning me with something. I get to the stairs, I go up, I rush to the door and can't figure out how to open it. I can feel somebody coming behind me up the stairs. My adrenaline is kicking into 100 times. It's her. She goes and opens it. I say thank you and I leave. I check the cameras before going to my apartment. Nobody has triggered them. I sit in the kitchen and wonder, was I being crazy? I go to my room and get into bed and surprisingly get a call from her again. And she's being cool. She tells me to stop being so paranoid and come back. Now I'm actually half thinking about it, thinking I've been acting insane, but something just clicks. A theory I'd been having that would make sense of this. I tell her I can't. She asks why, and I tell her that my roommate is on the phone to the cops to stay the heck away. I have cameras everywhere. She pauses and then says, which still gives me the creeps, "I know your roommate isn't home from work yet," and hangs up. So the weeks before this, as I explained, I had a few attempted break-ins. I always thought that the roof was because I'm on the top floor, but the cameras never caught anything. What I didn't understand was how they were getting in. The apartment next to me, the only one on that floor, was occupied by the landlord's brother. He has what I'm guessing is dementia, or something similar, and he kind of wheezes and takes random things out every so often. I hadn't seen him in a while, but had heard movement in the apartment. I knew it was happening. It just all clicked. People were coming down the fire escape and in through the window. I think possibly staying there, stealing from him and using the Wi-Fi, as I had the code left on the wall. I think that night they decided to rob me, knowing my roommate wouldn't be home until at least 4. Somebody was watching me while I was out in the neighborhood. When they realized I was going home early, they tried to distract me. I told the landlord I thought people were going into the apartment. I don't know about the clutter in there, but I know the window was unlocked, and he stayed with an elderly lady on the second floor who looks after him. There hasn't been much activity since, so I hope this is the end of it. I didn't call the police because I wasn't sure if I was being crazy, but I knew deep down I wasn't. But even when I tell people, I can see they're like, okay. This happened years ago when I was back home from uni for the summer. I completed a trial shift, serving drinks at a club in town, and I was feeling pretty pleased that they'd offered me the job. It was just after 1 on a Saturday morning, and I was cycling home on a familiar route and completely sober. On the way, there was a steep hill with terraced houses and their gardens on either side of the road, and a very brightly lit co-op shop at the top. The streetlights were out, so I could see the circle of road illuminated by my bike light, the co-op, and not much else. As I was struggling very slowly up this hill, I heard someone close on my left call out in a strained whisper. Help! Inaudible. Knife! I turned and saw someone looking very pale and distinct peeking out from the hedge and possibly reaching towards me. I was terrified and sprinted uphill for a short distance. Then I thought this could be someone that actually needed help. So I stopped the bike in the middle of the road and looked back. The lady who'd been in the hedge was just struggling out of it, still waving at me. She ran over when she was relatively close. She whispered, shouted, "He's got a knife. Call the police. There's a man with a knife." So I called the police and had them on the line while we waited together for them to arrive, which only took a few minutes. The hedge lady was maybe a couple of years older than me and looked very normal, except that she looked extremely afraid. Her face was white and she was visibly shaking. After explaining that I was doing there, I passed the phone to the hedge lady. She said that she'd been at her sister's for the evening and on her way back home had decided to stop for a cigarette outside the co-op. There's a sign you can sit on, and it was unusually nice night in terms of weather. While she was having her cigarette, a kid or a young guy approached her. He didn't look intimidating. She emphasized that she was very small, and she thought he wanted to ask her for a light. Instead, he asked her why she was crying. She wasn't crying, and opened his arms like he was inviting her over to hug him. She told him that she was fine. Look, she wasn't crying. He continued saying things like, "It's fine, don't worry, it'll be okay. You'll be okay." It kept coming after her like he wanted to put an arm around her. She then felt alarmed and started moving away from him. She told him that her sister and her husband were expecting her, and that she really had to go. This wasn't true. She'd been on her way home and no one was expecting her. Without asking where they lived or what direction she was going in, he told her that he knew a shortcut over the Wick and that she should really come with him. As a note, the Wick is a nature reserve and military training area, one edge of which is about 10-minute walk from where we were standing. It's huge and parts of it are very remote. It would be an absolutely terrible place to go with a threatening stranger. She told me she wasn't going anywhere with him. He then said, "I've got a knife. You should really come with me." At this point, she screamed, threw her bag at him, and ran down the hill. After running for a bit, she knocked on someone's door and the next few doors, but they didn't answer, not even to talk through the window. While they called the police, she was worried that he'd follow her and find her, so she ran a bit farther and hid in the hedge. She wasn't sure how long she'd be hiding in the hedge for. The police were fairly efficient and polite, but seemed a bit nonplussed. All the time we'd been waiting for the police to arrive, the hedge lady had been holding it together extremely well. As soon as the police arrived, she started to cry uncontrollably, and I think they found her difficult to follow when she repeated what she described on the phone. The officer who seemed to be in charge complained loudly about neighbors listening, but never bothering to call the police. And the upstairs window of the closet house immediately slammed shut, which caused a bit of laughter. I hadn't actually seen anything, and couldn't add much except that I believed her. When the police were finished with both of us, I called my poor old dad for help, and he drove me back home with my bike in the car boot and slightly across the back seats. I probably should have left it locked to something, but I felt irrationally extremely concerned for its safety. I left my number with the police, but they never called for any follow-up. I think it's worth noting that almost a year later, a teenager who lived near where we had this encounter was arrested for two separate very violent knife murders, while attempting a third. Both murders happened just prior to this encounter, but were in the news. I first found out about them much later when my bike was stolen from outside the club I worked at, and I had to get a taxi home. The taxi driver told me about what happened in some detail, but at the time, I thought she was just messing with me to drive up business. Hey, I hope you all enjoyed those stories. If you did, please leave a like, comment, or subscribe. And if you want to share your own experiences, I would love to read them. You can see my link in the description. And with that said, as always, stay depressed.